All right. This is the final video that uh, I'm creating for this part of the class. Now, the last rule is something that it's something that you either get or you struggle a bit. Okay? And we're gonna try that all of you get it. So this rule is called the chain rule. Okay. The chain rule looks at functions inside function. So it looks derivatives at the derivative of function that looks like this, f of g of x. Okay? A function in a function. Okay? Functions in functions. Okay? Now, I'm gonna write the rule. Okay? So what is the derivative of f of g of x? Right? By the way, how does a function like this look like? Okay? So a function that uh, is probably like this, something like 1 minus x squared to the 10th, for example. So we see that it's a function inside a larger function. Okay. Another example would be square root of 5 plus x, for example. So this is a function inside a larger function. Okay. When you see a function in a function, that's what the chain rule is for. Okay. Now, let me first write what the chain rule is. So, the chain rule is the derivative of f of g of x is equal to, we first take the derivative of f with g of x inside, then we multiply this with the derivative of the inside times g prime of x. Okay? Or div of f with g of x in it times the derivative of g. Okay? I guess that makes sense, right? Uh let's do an example. Let's use this as an example. Okay? Example 1. What is the derivative of 1 minus x squared to the 10? Okay. The first thing that you need to realize is what is the outside function? What is our f here? The outside function is the exponent to the 10th, right? So, how do you find the exponent? How do you find the derivative of a power? We use the power rule, of course. So, if we do the power rule, this will be 10 times 1 minus x squared to the 9th, right? So, this is it, right? It's the derivative of the outside. It's the derivative of the outside with inside function in it. Okay? Then We're not yet finished. We still need to find the derivative of the inside, which is this one, of g. And the derivative of this is negative 2x. So the final answer would be negative 20 x times 1 minus x squared to the ninth. Okay, so that's the derivative. Now, here's there's no mnemonic, but the idea is if you want to find the derivative of a pregnant woman, you need to find the derivative of the woman first with the baby times the derivative of the baby. Okay, so derivative of pregnant woman equals derivative of the woman of woman with baby times the derivative of baby. Okay, I guess we can discuss this in a math after dark, of course, but this is it. That's what the chain rule is. We want to handle the cases where it's a function in a function. Okay, so another example. What is the derivative of the fourth root of 1 plus 2x plus x cubed? So what's that derivative gonna be? Okay, well, this derivative, if we rewrite this, it would be 1 plus 2x plus x cubed to the 1/4, right? Because it's fourth root. Then we do the chain rule. We first do power rule because that's the outside function. Then it will be raised to a power of 1/4 minus 1. Okay. So that's the first part done. So that's the derivative of the woman with the baby. Next is we need to find the derivative of the baby, in which case the derivative of 1 plus 2x plus x cubed is 0 plus 2 plus x cubed, which is 3x squared. And just 1/4 times 1 plus 2x plus x cubed to the negative 3/4 times 2 plus 3x squared. That's it. You don't need to simplify. Don't be a hero. Don't try to simplify this even further. Okay? I get so weak in the knees and no, 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 no. I'm posting this on YouTube. I cannot sing any songs. How about something like that? Again, find the derivative of the pregnant woman and the baby. So this is a power rule. So this is 100 x cubed minus 1 to the 99. Then we multiply by the derivative of the baby, which is 3x squared. You can leave it like this, right? But it's best practice to put all of the coefficients in front. So the 3 multiplies with the 100 here, so it becomes 300. You can write the x squared, then write the x cubed minus 1 to the 99. Okay? Right? Right. So what's the derivative with respect to x of x to the fourth minus 1 cube times x to the fourth plus 1 to the fourth power? Okay, pause here to try. You gotta need, by the way, as a hint, if you're already trying, as a hint, you gotta need the product rule because you have a left function here and a right function here. Okay? All right. So, yeah. So what do we do now? Well, what we do is so left d right, left d right. So the derivative of x to the fourth plus 1 to the fourth plus right, fourth plus 1 to the fourth, d left. Right? Now, I forgot the cubed here. Now, we find the derivative accordingly. So, x to the fourth minus 1. This again is chain rule. So, it's a product rule on the outside, the first step. Then once you find the d left and d right, you kind of need the chain rule. So this becomes 4 times x to the fourth plus 1 times the derivative of x to the fourth plus 1 is 4x cubed plus x to the fourth plus 1 to the fourth. Same here. So the derivative of x to the fourth minus 1 to the cube, that's 3x to the fourth minus 1 squared times 4x cubed. Okay? Oh, wait, I forgot the cube here. Right? You can leave it like this. I'm okay with you leaving it like this. Right? Now, for a final discussion, let's try to let's try to derive the quotient rule. Let's try to derive the quotient rule. If you remember the quotient rule, it's go d high minus high d low over low squared. But the way we will derive it, we will be using we'll rewrite the problem into this. So from here, you should see that this right here is the same as this one. So I wrote g of x over g of x as g of x to the negative 1. Okay? So if we do the chain rule and the product rule, ideally we should have the quotient rule. So we have something to base our information on. Okay? So try it out. Answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So for this particular example, this is our left here. This is our right. So left, the right. So it's left times the derivative of right. Okay? d dx of g of x to the negative 1 plus right g of x to the negative 1 d left derivative of f of x. Okay? All right. This is just the product rule. Then we have something here. F of x, this right here, is the derivative of gx to the negative 1. So we need to do a chain rule. We need to do a power rule. So this becomes negative g of x to the negative 2, right? Times the derivative of g of x times d dx of g of x. Okay? Plus g of x to the negative 1. We cannot really simplify the second addend yet. I guess to make our lives easier, because this seems like a lot of notation, I'ma I'ma write this as f times negative 1 over g squared, right? Because it's g to the negative 2 times the derivative of gx, which is g prime, okay, plus 1 over g, right? G of x to the negative 1 times the derivative of f, which is f prime, which is finally equal to negative f g prime over g squared plus f prime over g. And if you if you combine this into one fraction, g squared negative f g prime plus f prime g, which is essentially the quotient rule. So yeah, in this lesson, what we did was we did some chain rule exercises. Uh, yeah, it takes some getting used to, but just answer the quizzes and look at Barnett. Not Barnett. Just use the exercises that we have and practice and practice and practice. That's it. Okay. Good luck and see you next meeting. Bye bye.